Hi, everybody. Don Munson along with the head of ACC officials, Doug Rhoads. And first of all, Mr. Rhoads, thanks for letting us do this. We trying to educate folks on what is going to be happening in college football here in 2011. Rules changes. Let's start right there. What are some of the important rule changes coming up this season?
Well, thank you, and it's always a pleasure to be here, too. I want to add that. This year, the NCAA Rules Committee, in conjunction with the American Football Coaches Association, proposed 3 or 4 rules changes that I think are significant. One is the unsportsmanlike conduct, and of course, this draws a lot of attention and a lot of interest nationally because of it's been, I think, incorrectly dubbed the excessive celebration rule, and that language is not correct, and that language doesn't even appear in the rule book. But what the rule says is if a player does anything prolonged, delayed, excessive, or choreographed by which he draws attention to himself, that's a foul. It's a team sport, and they want, team exuberance and celebration is fine, but the individual. The change for this year is that if that foul occurs in the field of play while the ball's alive, it's a spot foul. The official would throw the flag at that spot. If there was an ensuing score, that score would come off the board. You go back to the spot where the foul occurred and penalize it. And we're not trying to be overly technical or overly strict with this rule either, but I do think the emphasis has been that it's a team sport and team celebration is fine, but when these individual acts draw attention to an individual, that's the part they want out of the game. Also, anything that rises to the level of baiting or taunting an opponent. Sportsmanlike is at the foundation of this whole game and this whole sport and everything that goes with it. So I think it's an effort to try and ensure that we have the correct sportsmanlike. The correct term is unsportsmanlike conduct, not excessive celebration.
And once the ball breaks the plane, breaks the goal line, then it becomes a dead ball foul, right?
That's correct. And the minute the ball penetrates the plane, it's dead. And if some kind of delayed, prolonged, excessive choreographed act occurs after that, then the offended team has the option to take it on the point after or on the ensuing kickoff. So they have the option as a dead ball foul.
But points do not come off the board in that scenario.
Once that ball breaks the plane, that element is removed from it. It's a score, and then we would assess the penalty based on the other factors.
Let's just talk a little bit about how you go about educating coaches on what's going on in the game. It is, for those of us that are kind of inside the circle here, you all have a great line of communications with the coaches before games, after games. They can send you video. You will get back to them. Talk a little bit about that communication level.
Well, I think it's important. There's nobody that is infallible in this game. And to be honest with you, coaches make mistakes, players make mistakes, and officials make mistakes. And our goal, all 3 of us, is to do everything we possibly can to eliminate, if possible, or reduce at best. So that communication is very active. We communicate through a variety of means. Technology today is wonderful. In the ACC conference office, we have a game day center. Every game is recorded. Every foul is recorded. Coaches submit plays to me over the internet. They want me to review why wasn't this holding? Should the clock have stopped in this situation? A variety of things. So we have this kind of seamless, continuous communication during the season. Also, I think sometimes the pure educational aspect of it. I learn when I come meet with coaches about what's techniques or what philosophies are being taught today, just as they hopefully learn from me about what the rules committee is, what our philosophy is, what the officials' techniques are. So it's just a great sharing of the various things that go into making this game what it is. That's why it's so popular. Everybody likes it.
10 crews that you supervise right now in the Atlantic Coast Conference. They also work games for Army and Navy as well. Talk about those 10 crews, how you go about putting those crews together. Do those crews stay together for the entire season? Do you switch guys up? Exactly what happens?
Okay, we assign, in addition to the Atlantic Coast Conference, our staff of officials works Army, Navy, and the Big South Conference. So we have 21 schools total. With that staff of officials and the 10 crews, as you mentioned, I also have 5 additional alternates because we have a very rigid conflict of interest policy, and if an official attended that school or has any business relationship, we would swap them out and put one of the other alternates in. So very rigid conflict of interest policy that the athletic directors approve. But as far as those crews, I try and mix them up. You don't want the same crew going to the same school 2 or 3 weeks back to back. We try and mix them up a little bit. The crews are interchangeable parts. They're generally together for the whole year. There's a few exceptions. An official may be injured. He may have a family emergency or a work-related conflict where he couldn't make a game, or I may suspend him. So, I mean, there's a variety of things that could happen that mix those crews up. But generally, they're together all year long. Tremendous accountability. The replay official who is present at that game, when it's over, he takes a DVD of that game and grades every foul. So there's a numerical grading score that the official gets by Thursday. They're dumped into a database, and I have that for me to review. I match it up with video that either coaches submit or our game day operations center or even the game that I'm at. And we match it up, and then we convert that into a weekly training tape. So every Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, I have anywhere from a 15 to 30-minute video that's submitted. Every official sees it, and every coach sees it. And it's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly from that week in the ACC as far as officiating. We accept responsibility. It's not like the video doesn't lie. This is adult learning at its highest level. And that's kind of what the goal of that communication is with video.
Biggest difference between college football and NFL football from a crew standpoint is where that umpire is. You all have selected to leave the umpire there in the defensive scheme kind of thing, whereas the NFL, of course, has moved to the offensive side. Why that decision?
Well, I think more than anything else, the NFL game is a different game, for one thing. They don't have the hurry up and the no huddle and some of those things too. But I think when I met during the summer with my counterparts from the SEC and the Big Ten and the other conferences, and we sit down and meet and go over these things, we really took a good hard look, and we had some input from the NFL who was present at our meetings and talked about it. They were having considerable problems with that umpire being knocked down, actually being hit, over 100 knockdowns. I think it was in the 09 season. So they experimented with moving, and it was a good fit, and they were happy with the results. It took some work to tweak it. In the college game, we felt that, yes, that umpire is somewhat in harm's way, and he does occasionally get in the way in the middle, but we wanted that interaction. We want him in there spotting the ball, interacting with players, and doing a kind of keeping control in the middle. So, and we may evaluate it again next year and take a look, but for now, I think the positioning of that umpire fits for the college game.
Let's talk a little bit about this 10-second subtraction that has now come in the last minute of play and only in the end of the first half and the end of the ball game. There's some really things that could happen there.
I think there will be a significant impact the first time this happens in college football. What the Rules Committee and the American Football Coaches Association decided was there are those situations near the end of the second or fourth quarter where a team, either intentionally or unintentionally, could get a benefit or an advantage by creating a foul, and so and stopping the clock. And I think more than anything else, what they've done is just added this little element to correct that anomaly. Here's what the rule says: if in the last minute of the second or fourth quarter, the clock is running, and it's in like I said, the end of the second, fourth quarter, and there's a foul that occurs that causes the clock to stop. So think of the elements: clock running, last minute, second or fourth quarter, and causes the clock to stop. All four of those things happen. Now the offended team in this situation has the option. They can refuse any penalty, like always. They can take the yardage for the penalty, or they can take the yardage and a 10-second runoff of the clock. And what that means is it prevents a team from gaining an advantage because they committed a foul that stopped the clock. Now, there's a couple little nuances in the rule. One is if the team that commits that foul and stops the clock has a timeout, they can buy their way out of the 10-second runoff because they burned their timeout. And secondly, it doesn't matter offense or defense. If the offense creates a false start and the defense is behind and they want to get the ball back, they don't want to run the time off. So it could be on either side of the ball. The one situation I think is the one that we hope we don't see, but it could be if the clock is running and it gets down, it's at 11, 10, 9. Let's say a team's out there to kick a game-tying or game-winning field goal, and we get to 11, 10, 9, and there's a false start, that game is over by rule. And so the referee would announce that the 10-second runoff has been accepted by the offended team. By rule, the game is over. So hopefully we don't see that happen.
All right, finally, new rules. Is there anything new to this game that we need to be aware of coming into 2011?
Yeah, there are a couple, and I mentioned the unsportsmanlike earlier, which is one that it's a live ball foul, but there's a couple others that I think a fan would recognize as the game's being played. One of those is intentional grounding. In the past, if the quarterback got outside the pocket and threw the ball away across the line of scrimmage, that was okay. But if he was in the pocket, he had to throw it in the area of an eligible receiver who had a reasonable opportunity to catch it. Well, that second part of that is gone now. He just has to throw it in the area of an eligible receiver, and we don't ask the official to make that judgment. Did he have a reasonable opportunity? And it's a good rule. I mean, the defense has forced him to give up the down and throw it away. Why add another element of judgment when you don't need it? As long as that eligible number's in the vicinity, it's good. A couple other changes that occurred. One of them, I think, that you'll notice, the coaches this year can have video monitors in their box. So for the first time in college football, at least, each coaching staff up in the box will have access to video monitors. They have to be identical in both the home and visitors box. They can get the live TV feed that comes in from the game, and they can't have any recording equipment. So there are a few little restrictions in there, but I think that's helpful too. Replay, we haven't had a big change in replay this year, although I would like to point that I did a 5-year analysis. We're starting our 6th season of replay, and it's not new anymore, so it's integrated into the game. And these statistics tell us a couple really good things. Number one, over those 5 years, we've stopped the game about 1,000 times. So that's just in the ACC. But that's about 200 a year. But you realize we're playing almost 100 games a year, right. So that's about 2 per game. The average length of time we stop it is only about 1:19. So it's really not intruding on the game. We're overturning 1 out of 5, so that's 20%, 19.4 to be exact. So the officials are right 4 out of the 5 times on the field, and we're kind of verifying this through replay. What I did learn was all those 1,000 stoppages over that period of time came down to 3 plays. And this tells me, just as I share with the coaches when we meet, with officials and with players, are 3 plays that are probably the toughest plays to officiate. The first and most common one is catch, no catch. Did he control the ball? Did his feet come down in bounds? Did he complete the catch? That type thing. The second most common is fumble, no fumble. Did the knee hit and the ball come out, or did the ball come out and then the knee hit? That type thing. And the third one is scoring plays. Did he break the plane before his knee was down, or was his knee down and then the ball broke the plane? Or did he have the ball inside the pylon when he was running, or was it outside the pylon, and that type thing. So it helps us from an officiating standpoint, perhaps from a coaching standpoint. But those are some of the changes, and I think they're all pretty good.
The bell means we need to end. We appreciate you being here with us. Doug Rhoads, the head of officials for the ACC, hoping to clear up some of the things that are going on here in the football field in 2011. We appreciate him being with us, and we thank you for being with us here on ClemsonTigers.com.